basically just a high budget soap opera, and I'm all about it, dude.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the final episode of this cast. Now that we're launching off into the next cast, they've actually confirmed it. Um, Pretty intense kind of episode. A lot of building things that they did in this episode. What were your guys' overall thoughts?
Yeah, since the first episode, I think this is probably my favorite episode in the series so far. I feel like it's all like the tension and everything was just like boiling. I loved the tension building in this entire episode. It just felt nerve wracking. Just all the all the drama going on behind the scenes and like who knows what and who doesn't know some shit. So I don't know. I thought it was a really good episode and it ends off like just in a crazy spot. So it was a good time.
Yeah.
I think this is definitely my favorite so far. It's the most dramatic out of like what we've seen so far. There's just been a lot, and the whole season's been building up to this moment where everything starts to become revealed, and yeah, overall, I think the acting in this was just the most well. I think the acting was always like really well done in this series, but I think this was where everybody had a moment to shine of like, oh damn, this is like it just hit very differently, especially in the later portions of the episode where they're all at that dinner party, and it just gets very awful quickly.
Yeah.
That whole section was nuts, but I guess we'll get to that later. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah. Overall, yeah, it's a good episode. I thought in some aspects there was a few angles in it where I was like, I wish that they were a little bit more subtle with it, but especially with the Queen's big entrance into the hall, as it were. I thought that could have been a little bit more subtle, and there's a few other points that we can talk about later. But overall, they're keeping up to par with like what they're currently making, and I really appreciate that, I especially with like how complex and how many different perspectives you have to get for that dinner scene, for the wedding scene, or rather the reception or the party scene. For how many different perspectives that they had to cover. I bet the shot list for that thing was insane. Like
Yeah,
the
for
amount of
sure.
coverage that they had to cover for it was like just so many people, so many different angles, so many different little like glances and perspectives that you can be getting like that connect to one another and ultimately build to this really big climax of the episode. So I think they did an excellent job with it overall. But yeah, I would say it's pretty damn good. Pretty damn good so far.
Yeah, I think this episode had some of the best writing in it, but also had like weirdly some of the worst.
Yeah.
Like certain parts where it's just like you said, Eddie. It had those moments where it's like, okay, that's really corny or like
Get on the
weird.
head. Yeah.
It's a bit in your face, but it still works. I actually liked when I'm never gonna remember her character, but like the queen currently.
Oh, Alicent.
Poor Abhi. Every week it's Allison.
They're hard names, dude. I get it.
Abhi like saying it's Allison.
Determined not to learn. What's crazy?
They're hard names. I get it.
Yeah, like Allison's like not crazy, but yeah. So
I don't know if you know this last week, Fumbah, but like me and Abhi were like high key trying to like oversay Rhaenyra's name because you kept being Rhaenyra. And me and Abhi were like, yeah, Rhaenyra.
That was crazy. I didn't realize that until the end of the episode when I think obviously Rhaenyra was like, oh shit. What was I saying? Oh no.
You just kept calling Matt Smith Matt Stone, and I just imagine the South Park creator just like as Damon. I'd be like, that'd be crazy.
He's going through with the long white hair.
Exactly. They could pull it off.
I see.
Yo, damn, somewhere in the background, it's just like a card. So Alicent, when she's introduced and just pissed, right? She's like really upset with Rhaenyra after it's revealed that she like slept with her royal guard, and she comes in all green. And, I liked it, and I think that line specifically, I was like, that's actually pretty good dialogue. Like, why is it what does green represent? It's like
Yeah.
war. I was like, oh,
I
that's
loved
good.
that scene, and I just wish they didn't say anything. Because it just would have been so... Because it was impactful. I was, like, getting goosebumps, dude. Like, everyone's quiet. The King
Yeah.
stands like, holy shit. I was like... At that moment, I was thinking, like, I fucking love this show. They're killing it. And then, like, they have those corny lines. I'm like, oh, okay. Just tucks me back a little
Do you know
bit.
why she's wearing green?
Yeah.
Do you know what it means? Let me tell you real quick.
Dude, it's like, these guys who don't have any dialogue at all. It's just like, who are these people? Why are we listening to this? And it's like the same... Like, I love what happens in that whole sequence, like the chaos and everything. But same with I just hate how quick like that dude who's Rhaenyra getting married to? What's his name?
I have no idea.
Anyways, his lover. Basically, he was like going up to Sir Criston, and he was like, you know what? Like, he figured out stuff way too quickly, you know, that Sir Criston and Rhaenyra were together. That stuff was a little clunky to me, but it's just like the whole overall impact of the episode was just like where it ends off, like Sir Criston pummeling his face in. It just, dude, that was insane.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's crazy about that scene was like, I didn't catch on to how he caught on to it, right? Like I never got that moment where he had the aha.
Yeah, like just because he was looking down and stuff, like that is such a screenwriting twisty way to make it work instead of like an actual realization. Like,
I mean,
Like
they
looked at each other, and you saw the glimmer of love in their eyes. And what?
Like come on, dude, you're not that smart. Like, no one can figure that shit out that easily. There's a hall full of people. Yeah, sorry.
It's like a hall full of people. Rhaenyra, like, kind of fucks with this dude enough.
I would have thought it would have been Damien. Like, my first guess would have been Damien, dude. Like, that's where all the rumors are starting out. Like, that's where everyone's talking gossip of. It, like, but to go from, like, and they almost make out on the floor.
Yeah.
That was crazy, and I love Viserys. Viserys is like... Like, half the time he's like, what's going on? And then he's just eating, like, the chicken and, like, everyone else is doing some crazy shit.
Like, the lobster starts, like, trying to cut the lobster. I'm like, you're not going to get through that, buddy.
Dude, I love how goofy that scene was, though, because, like, Viserys doesn't know anything. He's, like, he's lost all power and control, and it shows that in that scene perfectly. Yeah. All he can do is eat himself to death now. That's all he's got left.
Just him, Josh struck, about to see, like, his brother probably make up his daughter, just like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's just,
dude,
that scene was so intense to me, because it's like, yeah, this is probably the worst thing ever for anybody.
Yeah.
But I mean, can we just talk about the entrance of the intro of the episode?
Oh yeah,
quality Game of Thrones, right?
Really good.
And I watched the after the bonus features afterwards, or the behind the scenes with the writer and everything. And in the source material, it talks about how Alice Hightower, she falls off her horse and breaks her neck, right? And that's all that, like, I guess the book says about it at the time, right? And I think it was a stroke of genius to have Damien be the one that ultimately causes her to die, right? I thought that was great, you know, and to have her actually be this strong, you know, independent, right, like hunting-based woman who can like take care of herself, right? She's completely opposite to what Daemon is like portraying her to be, right?
Yeah.
And especially with like the way that Daemon is, Daemon wants to be the one that's in control. He wants to be the one that's in power, right? And I bet the way, at least the way that they portray her in like the 5 minutes of screen time that they give her, get that little moment where like it's clear that like the reason why he doesn't love her is because he can't control her, right? And that at least that's what I picked up on. And to have him be like, to ultimately go back home to kill his wife, so that way he can like go off and do other things and be with Rhaenyra without having an issue with
and he wants all the stuff that belongs to her, right? The whole kingdom is going to go to him now.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, like
that's what I loved about this episode. There's so many different like powder kegs that were just like piling up around, and you were just looking for that one that was just going to like light off and blow up in everybody's face.
And,
literally.
Like, that was my complaint before, is that it was too fast paced, but I think this episode, like, works with what they're going for now. Like the pacing was so good, even though there were so many things happening. I was like, I like this because it's so inherently Game of Thrones, but it's its own thing completely now, pacing wise. Like they're just like ramping it up, and I get it because now the time jump's happening and everything. But I thought it was a really good episode to end off before that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that, in that beginning part, I think Eddie just touched on most of it. But I just thought it was a very interesting way to kill her off, right? Where it just, I don't know, something about having this woman who's literally like standing above Damien at this moment to be killed by her own horse, and then later for him to walk off and to her to leave that line of like, you can't get it up anyway, which has always been his insecurity of like, you just like you can't stand at the occasion, and that's the reason why he goes back to kill her. It's crazy.
It was like, because she was like paralyzed. He could have just left her there. Something could have happened. And then she was like, "What? You can't finish." And then he's like, "All right, I'm picking up the rock." I'm like,
"Well, goddamn it, you know?"
That's fucking brutal.
I appreciate the fact that they didn't show like him doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I appreciate that fact because I think it leaves like we already know in our heads what he's gonna do, right? And I think cutting to the butcher cutting the head off the fish does the job all on its own. It implies that with symbolically we see that, and that's a representation of the fish's head being chopped off. And I thought that was really tasteful because Game of Thrones could very easily and has done stuff that's just as brutal before that. So I thought it was a really nice taste of restraint like when it comes to the director and the showrunners of the show. So I really appreciated that.
Exactly, because especially if they did show it at first when the episode began, the last scene wouldn't have been impactful either. Like it would have been the exact same kind of like brutality, but shown twice. So they saved it for the end. I think it definitely worked in its favor. Because that was fucking disgusting, dude.
Yo. I mean, I'm just thinking that he's beating him, and then they cut to his face, and it's like, there's a hole.
Yeah.
A hole in his
like that big.
Yeah.
Sir Kristen
I'm
lost
thinking your
it.
hand's broken. Your hand's broken, dude.
I want to talk about Sir Kristen in this episode.
Dude.
This was,
my guy's down bad.
Yeah.
He is down bad.
He should have kept his fucking mouth shut. He shouldn't have talked. He should have just been like, all right, I'm going to stick. I'm just let her talk.
Yeah.
I thought that was where the writing was really interesting because it was kind of playing towards where it was like, I felt based on the writing in that moment that that's what was going to happen, right? I felt that he was just going to like jump the gun when she was talking about Damon.
Yeah. Right? I thought the same thing. I know what you're talking about.
Like, because she was just never finishing her sentence, and I thought that was a really interesting case of misinterpreted like representation because Sir Christian thinks that he's in there because he's caught, he's busted, right? She knows that he betrayed his oath, right? Whereas on the other hand, she's actually bringing him in there to be like, hey, did she fuck Damon?
Yeah. And
right?
now she knows about Kristen. And I'm so happy that it didn't go the route that they kept going on with the misunderstanding. Because I was like, because that's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh no, is this going to be hella goofy? Like, she's talking about this, he's talking about that. And then he's going to, like, prove to her that Damon did that. But he talked about himself, which I thought that was good, that it just, like, took the other direction, not the corny route.
It does show a case of his honor along with it.
Exactly. Dude, like, that conversation on the ship was so sad. Like,
yeah.
Dude, Rhaenyra. That shit hit, dude.
It's funny though, because looking at that scene, I'm just like, bro, you've been so professional up until this point. Like, this is the part where you're gonna be like in your feelings with it. Like, I don't know. This is kind of funny to look at that.
But because he like already like. He considers himself dishonorable now, and Rhaenyra saying the same thing. It's like, this is my duty. I can't marry you. And then he's like, but she also made him give away his sense of duty. Like, she doesn't see it's the same. She literally is saying like, I'm better than you. My like ideals are more important than yours. Like, dude, she's horrible now.
Yeah, she's awful. No, I do think watching it, I was looking at it from the perspective of like, oh, like she is the queen, and she's already not supposed to done this. But then I did think, actually, you brought up a good point, because I totally forgot, like, oh yeah, she forced him into that situation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, you're kind of awful, actually. Jesus Christ.
Like, she's doing... dude, yeah.
Then
I
it's,
love
then
it.
it's
I love it.
like it's funny to look at the situation then, because it's like, well, you were forced into this situation. It's not like you love her necessarily. You're just This is
She
the only option that's brought to you, and you're denied the only option that's open. So it's like,
like he
damn,
definitely
yeah,
like has feelings for her too. And it's like he's ready to take that leap of faith, and like she's like
Leave
holding.
everything behind.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And like she like belittled him, like talking about like the fruit ships, you know, like going on those. It's like that is such an important line to me because like she thinks that's lowly. That's lowly for her to do that. Like
it's crazy.
and that's the
Yeah.
moment like he realized she won't view me as an equal. She never will. And it, dude, oh, man,
Yeah.
I was getting shivers, and I was like, this is Game of Thrones, dude. It's crazy.
That was really good writing.
Yeah.
It straight up was just one person just and not realizing that you're looking down on this person. Like you
Exactly. She's not self-aware about it at all.
Yeah,
No.
you just that speaks to the naivety of Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra? Yeah.
There you
It's just the fact that like she always sees herself as the victim, but can never put herself in the position of power over someone else because she's always been someone that's being used. But now that she's using somebody else, she can't imagine like that being a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not even on her fucking radar. So it's great writing in that regard because it's not like she's purposely trying to be an asshole to this person. In fact, she was just like, "You could be my, we can still fool around, but you know, we won't be married."
You know?
That's the ultimate solution. Is to just we can keep fucking like that to her is basically to accommodate for him ruining his reputation, essentially, or ruining his honor, which is baffling. But for that lead up to go to him beating the shit out of her future fiance's boyfriend was such a crazy lead up. Like it made sense, but I was also
Wait,
like,
what happened there though? Why was he pummeling him?
I don't know.
Because I think he realized, like, you know, I like.
Oh, someone's gonna have this over me, maybe.
That's what I was thinking
yeah.
at first. But on the other hand, it could be because like he like realizes that like beforehand that like that arrangement, that conversation, right, where he felt himself beforehand to be above that, to be honorably above that, right? Above that kind of like manipulative like kind of juncture between these two parties, right? Where it's like, hey, I'm gonna still be doing my thing with my boyfriend, and you're gonna still be doing your thing with the queen, and we're just gonna be knowing that about each other. And if you tell, I'm gonna tell your story, and vice versa, right? And I think him realizing that he's actually like of the same level of morality, I think that might have been one of the reasons why it ultimately just like broke him in the end of the day, you know. And he just snapped it and lost it and ruined his girl's wedding.
Jeez.
Yeah, but even still, I think visually it was kind of jarring because he seemed to have it under control until he just suddenly did, where it was just a very sudden switch to like, I'm now beating the shit out of this man and I killed him, and it's like, damn, that's like it makes sense narratively, but it like visually I was very confused and like, oh, okay, so that's where we're at, but yeah, I get it. Like I just think that the jump was kind of sudden in terms of like, or it's possible what Andy's saying is true, where he probably just really fed up with all of it.
Yeah, I think he just broke. Like like the character,
like,
the episode ended up being framed a lot around Sir Kristen. Like his arc was like heavy in this one, then like ending off with him like about to stab himself, and Alicent's like, hold up, you know, like he just broke. Like he's ready. Like he didn't mean to do that either. He lost control, and now he's can't forgive himself even more. Like great, that dude kills it too. Like great performances all around.
Yeah, no, everyone did great in this episode. I think everyone really nailed it overall. I actually really liked Alicent in this episode.
Me too.
I think she really showed out. I'm curious to see what's gonna happen 2 years later with her character. It seems like she just does not like Rhaenyra anymore.
Nah,
so
like they diverged. Like from that last episode, like they met in the middle at one point, you know, where like we were like they're just like each other at this point, you know. But after that hug and like them really connecting with one another, and they're just going to diverge their characters now. They're never going to be the same again. They're never going to have the same morals again. And I think it's a really cool point where we see that split now. And dude, yeah. Alicent killed it in this episode. Like, oh man, I was fucking feeling it. I felt so bad. Like, Alicent and Kristen on screen together, I'm like, wow, these two are the only characters I think are like good people now. Like, crazy.
I think what's interesting about that divergent is like, especially when you compare like Alicent to Rhaenyra, like Alicent's also lost her mother, right? So to swear on her mother's grave, like if Alicent was to make that same kind of like to swear on her mother's grave, like I feel like that means a lot to her. For Rhaenyra to lie about that, to swear on her mother's grave and to her face and lie about it, I think that's a very distinct stab in the back, and to show like really like you have no morals. Like, I can't trust you as far as I can throw you, you know. And I think her entrance really shows that, you know. I feel ultimately for me, the person who I just continuously feel bad about for is Viserys, the king. He is just always like trying to do something fun. He's just trying to get a plan going, trying to get the ball rolling, and it always just hits him in the face, man. Like he can never just have it go his way. He's like, today we're gonna have 7 days of games, and then after that we'll have a grand wedding, and then it's like, fuck. Then nothing ever goes right.
Then Daemon walks in, then Alicent walks in, then Sir Kristen loses his shit. It's like, all right, I guess I'll just die now.
Yeah. It's actually crazy when you think about it. Like, he never gets his moment, bro.
And the show starts like that, too. It's like, I think the first episode, it's like he is the worst in the decision-making he does. But since the first episode, you see the regret. You see, like, he knows he fucked up and made those mistakes. Like, he's ready to give the throne to Rhaenyra now. He's not going to budge on that. And, like, ever since that, he's been regretting that decision. It's like, everything that's happened in his life since that point is just awful.
It's not great. Yeah. And he's
and not to say that, like, I feel like it was the right decision to make Rhaenyra his heir. You know?
Oh yeah, I definitely.
But I agree with you. Everyone is just fighting him on it and like biting him, and like Otto Hightower, and now, like to find out like that his wife is also like really is like, I don't approve of the person who you've made the heir to the throne, right? That's a very big thing, and especially with the trailer to the next episode, you very much see that like the relationship with Sir Christian. I think it's very interesting when you look at the end of the episode and how Alicent stops Sir Christian from killing himself. I think that's some interesting like kind of needle playing that she's doing, or thread pulling that she's ultimately doing. She's learning to play the Game of Thrones more effectively, right? As her father is trying to get her to do, right? Which I thought was interesting. Why do you guys think that she ultimately stops Sir Christian from killing himself?
Well,
I think, maybe she does. I don't know what her character's going to be later, but at some point, too, I think she does sympathize for Sir Kristen, because I think she also, like, just knows Rhaenyra and what she's capable of now, and it's, like, I think she does sympathize for, like, Sir Kristen, and it's, like, him being forced to break his morals because of, like, her. Even though maybe she doesn't know that specifically, but she can see that Sir Kristen's, like, obviously, like, in turmoil because of this. But maybe a point of sympathy, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Oh, nothing. I guess I can see that. I don't know. I saw that her stopping him from killing himself. I can imagine Alice being like sympathetic to him, but something about it didn't seem like this was out of sympathy. You know, I never got that. I got that impression. Like the way that she went about it, I was kind of like, no, there's a benefit for you for keeping Sir Crispin around. Because I mean, you already see this like, situation. Like it's
Sir Crispin.
Right?
Sir Crispin.
Is it Sir Crispin?
You've been struggling with these Westeros names, bro.
Yo,
there's too many names.
Every time Game of Thrones, this is never. This is not complimented. But like, yeah. So that dude, trying not to stopping him from killing himself. It never felt like it was out of the fairness of her heart. It felt like there's a reason why she's keeping him around, and I feel like it's cool to manipulate him or like to piss off Rhaenyra, maybe like taking him away from her as his knight, like using that for her own purposes, or keeping him as her knight so that they can feed information to her about Rhaenyra. There's a lot of reasons why
I feel like
play with this.
She totally can, but there's nothing in her character so far to me that has shown that she would be as conniving. So maybe that's where the time jump is going to show like who she ends up becoming. But so far, like she was just like in like somber pain like this entire episode. She didn't say much. She was like contemplating, and maybe that's what it is. Like now she needs to take a step, and that's why she was like super quiet.
Yeah.
It felt like in the previous episode she was playing checkers. In this episode, she really like, all right, I got to start playing chess.
Yeah.
Right. And Christian really feels like a pawn in her play. At least from what I saw, it really like I don't know. Maybe I'm just like too jaded from Game of Thrones.
Can't trust anyone, dude.
No one. Everyone's got an alternative motive, and that's something that's kind of always been very exciting about Game of Thrones, So I just feel like she's like to have him be like an ally, especially if Rhaenyra and Sir Christian ultimately stay together and they still keep canoidling, as they say. I think it's to have him in her back pocket is going to be of benefit to her rather than him just committing suicide.
Yeah, he could act as her trap card essentially, like easily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's what I'm getting from that episode ending. And also, I was surprised that the king is from like a trailer for the next episode still around. So I was like, oh shit.
I didn't watch that trailer.
I think I think that's kind of smart, to be honest, because if they just killed him off, like I think episode 6 will be the one where he bites the bucket, because they don't give themselves a whole lot of time otherwise to get through all the other source material that they have to for the time and that they need to within that time, So
Gotcha.
I think it was smart to keep him around for one more episode, just so that way we get acclimated to the new cast, to the new people that are playing Rhaenyra and Alicent. I think it was very smart of them to do that in that particular case of things. But yeah. And he does
Dude,
not look.
Is he like infected? I haven't seen how he looks in the next episode, but is he like infected or something?
With
like his arm. Did you guys get the shot of that? His arm, which was all just nasty. Yeah. Like they didn't even focus on it, or it wasn't close up or anything. It was like blurred out. I was like, what is up with that? Like.
Yeah. So it started with just like a little prick of the finger, and it's grown to his entire arm. At least that's what they make it to be.
Is it like gangrene? Like what is that? Because I was looking at it.
Chop that puppy off. That's what you need to do.
You might as well your arm, bro. I would hate to have that there.
Yeah.
It's not like you need it. You don't go to war, but yeah.
Should have just chopped that pinky off, dude.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
Screw the maggots. Screw the leeches.
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
It's not like any of that medicine's helping. They're just giving him random shit,
They're like, the leeches always make the king feel better. Get that tea away from him. All right.
He's just like looking at it like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, I'd be like, maybe we should try the tea, okay? Maybe we should try the tea. You know what I mean? It might help.
At this point, just like, I'm just trying to feel good, Just give me something that makes me feel good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Honestly, Viserys has got such a shit card with this whole thing. Ever since he's gotten the throne, it's just been a rough go of it. Like, since it's with his brother, his wife dying, and his son dying, it's a tough go of it for Viserys,
Yeah.
I think admittedly, the only thing he did that I can explicitly say, like, that's wrong was with his wife.
Yes.
The only thing where I was like...
That's what I was referring to with that decision, like, in the first episode.
Yeah. Like, everything else, I was kind of like, damn, dude, that should have gone right. It's crazy that it's not working out, actually. Like, I feel really bad.
7 days of games. Never mind. Let's just get it over with.
Yeah, exactly. This is why we can't have nice things, Damon.
Ends with him literally collapsing onto the ground. I thought that's like, I agree with you. Like, I was shocked when I saw him in the trailer because I thought that was just like, all right, he died. The end.
Yeah,
have a good day.
He's gone now.
Good day.
Like this. Like
Yeah.
Also, I thought it would be kind of poetic of like an unceremonious death of just like, well, it all added up to nothing, so it's just kind of like he just goes away. Like I don't know, I thought that could be kind of poetic in its own right of like he was he wasn't like he was only the first choice because he was a man, not because he was like the most qualified, and nothing seemed to go right. So then his death just kind of was like that could be kind of I thought that could be kind of fun in its own
Yeah.
right. But the
And
people
everyone
around,
does suck, like, and making his job harder, but he's also just not a great leader. I think he's not
he's not.
he's not
Yeah,
supposed to rule. I don't like.
No.
Yeah.
yeah. He's
And like
literally.
I think there was a beautiful moment of insight. Sorry, what?
Well, I think he's just a placeholder. He's just there up until like someone else more capable can hold the throne. That's what it seemed to be portraying like this entire season was like he knows he's not capable. He knows he's like not the best person for it. But he also knows that everyone else is kind of worse. Like other than his daughter. It's just like, all right, well, I have to wait until my daughter like doesn't fuck up and becomes of age so I can give her the throne. Which I think is gonna happen. Maybe I don't know. I haven't read the book, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, I don't think
it was a beautiful moment of. I think it was a beautiful moment of insight for him when he was sitting there and you see his arm going back to that, like his arm pretty much all looking torn to hell, right? And he's sitting there with his new hand and being like, "What will they say of me when I'm gone?" Right? And I think the hand is in a tough position because he's like, probably not a lot of good stuff, sir. You know, like it's not like he was a bad king. It's just that he was a weak king. He wasn't really like he's not very strong within his decision makings, right? And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, you know. But like a strong leader has to lead their nation into a more prosperity, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was his biggest struggle is that he has these two different clans essentially forming within his single house. And that, I think that's one of the great things. He is literally the glue that is holding this whole family together, right? And it's tearing him apart, and you can see like the not only the physical stress that it's putting on his body, but also like the psychological, the emotional like strain that it's putting on him. So, I'm curious, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that like when he's gone, what do you guys think like his main thought would be, or main like what people will be thinking of him primarily?
Just as a week later, even though
A week later, yeah.
like he could have been a better person than a great leader would have made. I think it's like he does stick to his morals, like especially after his wife's death and everything. Like actually thinking about who he is as a person, and like I don't know. Sometimes a great leader may have to drop their morals for like the betterment, of like
Of the
whatever
realm.
of the realm. Yeah, exactly. But for what it's worth, he was a better person than he was a leader, I think. And in this case, it doesn't work that way, which sucks. But
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I think ultimately the same. I think like he always gave off this sense of he was a good person, like he was a good human being, and he tried to do the right thing. But that's not how you rule a kingdom. Like sometimes you have to be a terrible person. That's why like you can make a comparison that Damien in some ways would be a better king because he can make these terrible decisions, but he also doesn't have any morals to speak
Exactly.
of. So you just take advantage of the throne. So you look at Rhaenyra and it's kind of a mix of both, toss up. She could be more of Damien and more of Viserys. So either way, but yeah, speaking specifically about Viserys, I think that I don't think anyone's gonna speak too poorly of him in the sense of like, fuck this guy. It's more so just like, I wish he did more. Probably, Like,
yeah,
I wish he made better the harder decisions.
I mean, overall, like I gotta say, I love how like there's this trope that's going along. Not cliche. I wouldn't say cliche. I really like this trope that's developed from Game of Thrones. That anytime there's a wedding that happens, it never goes well.
yeah.
It always just goes terrible. I think that would be like the biggest plot twist that a Game of Thrones show could ever do, which would be to have a wedding go just perfectly fine, according to plan.
Okay.
I think that'd be genius. and it would be shocking to the
Yeah.
audience. We'd all be
Extremely
like, "No one died?"
subversive.
Yeah, everyone's alive at the end of this. What happened?
It's
here?
crazy. A happy ending? What?
Yeah. I gotta say, with that whole scene, the pacing of it, going back to something that you were saying, Abby, the pacing of that scene, because obviously they had so much coverage they had to get to, so many different angles and perspectives they had to get, that I bet it was just a blast in the editing room trying to figure out, okay, here are all the different shots we have. Let's put this in here, because they have a tempo that they put with the music right throughout that scene, right, and they do an excellent job of just keeping with that really fast pace, right, and showing the little glances of how people are going to be seeing things. All in all, out of 5 star, I would give this one a solid 4.5. I think it was a great midpoint of the series, and to have a segue over to the time jump, I think this was a phenomenal episode. What would you guys rate this overall?
I'll probably give it a 4 out of 5. Definitely my favorite episode since the first one. Probably just my favorite episode, just because now the characters are developed, and like the way it's headed is just insane to me. So yeah, 4 out of 5. I really love this one.
Yeah, same. 4 out of 5. I'm really excited to see where these characters are gonna go, and seeing how their inception a lot more than very naive, and also very their morals are still intact, to where they are now, where they're in question, to see where they're gonna be at toward the end of it. And it's a lot of different plot points that I'm excited to see expanded on. We didn't really touch on Damien flirting with the dude's daughter.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we didn't even touch on that. You're right.
We didn't touch on that, and that
At all.
alone is like
Him going over there, yakking over the boat.
There's so much
let's talk
shit
about
happening in
that
this
for a
episode. Yeah.
there's just so much. There's so much, and that whole plot point, I'm like, well, that seems fun, but also terrible. But like, let's see where that goes. And yeah, there's just a lot to look forward to. There's episodes set up, so for that alone, I'll give it like a 4. Not even like counting how spectacular the acting was in this, and that whole scene, the whole dinner party cinematography was really well done.
Yeah. Any other last overall final thoughts, lads?
It's basically just a high budget soap opera, and I'm all about it, dude.
Yeah. 100%. That's
Right there's our opener right there. It's just a high budget soap opera, and I'm all for it. Roll the credits. Here we go. Let's get this episode started.
Hell yeah.